Hey guys, so today I'm going to be looking at people who finally got their revenge. So yeah, let's just get right into the video. Backstory: I was a senior in high school at the time and I had never been the brightest student. I was a solid C student and I had never received a detention or had any kind of bad student record. This is important because to this day, I still have no idea why the teacher treated me this way. The teacher, who we will name Miss Frank, had been a teacher there for more than a decade and was widely known for being a petty, heartless teacher who the administrators saw as a golden child. Miss Frank taught algebra, which is my worst subject, so naturally I had issues understanding the lessons and would ask questions frequently. To some, these questions are easily answered, but to me, it was rocket science. Usually when someone asks a dumb question, no one should address it. However, in Miss Frank's case, she would belittle me in front of everyone by saying things such as, "And here comes the slow boy again. Wow, surprise, surprise, you don't understand it again. Really, we have to go extra slow for you today, don't we?" Why is she a teacher, honestly? You're there to teach someone, not to make petty remarks like this. I mean, you're a teacher. Your job is literally to teach someone if they don't know anything. Doesn't matter if it's a simple question or a dumb question. You're there to teach them. Jeez. I tried going to the administration about it before, but again, she was considered the golden child. They would send someone in to examine her during class. She would act respectful and normal for one day and go back to being mean the next. This goes on for about half the year until I had enough. I went to the local Radio Shack, bought a recorder, and secretly recorded every insult she would throw at me. I would sometimes instigate to make up for the lost time. Go ahead, feed the fire. Fast forward to the end of the year and I'm sitting in Miss Frank's class when I ask a question. Her response, and I quote, because it's burned into my brain, was, "I've been teaching here for 10 years and that was the single dumbest question I've ever heard come from anyone's mouth." I'm so done. I went home, compiled all of the brutal tapes into one glorious masterpiece, and headed back the next day to show the administrators. I sat down with the principal and we listened to a couple of the insults before he stopped me. He wanted more witnesses present as well as Miss Franks. He told me we would meet the next day where I could show him and the rest of the administrators the full tape. I walked into school the next morning being the most nervous I've ever been for anything. I was called down to the office where I met with some board directors, the local school police officer, the principal, the vice principal, and Miss Franks. You're screwed. What follows was some of the greatest minutes of my life. I watched as the administrators went from fed up with being in another useless meeting to furious and speechless, with some of them keeping their mouths open for the duration of the tape. I also watched Miss Frank go from confident and stuck up to her realizing that she screwed up beyond repair. She was publicly roasting herself in front of the most important people from the district. The tape ended and without hesitation, the administrators looked around in astonishment and the principal turns to me and says, "I think we have heard everything we need to. Thank you." And I was quietly dismissed from the room. The final time I saw Miss Frank was leaving the room. I looked back and we made eye contact through her tear-filled eyes as I gave her the biggest, most evil smile. She deserves it, honestly. Why are you even a teacher if you're going to be treating a student like that, you know? Shouldn't you be happy that someone is asking a question in your class? You know, that means they're paying attention and that means they're trying to learn. The fact that you're trying to put them down for that is the most stupidest thing ever. I returned to class the next week and Miss Frank was nowhere to be found. The story spread quickly throughout the school and I was seen as a saint. I had successfully gotten her fired and made it impossible for Miss Frank to return to her teaching career, as well as cut off most of the connections she had with other teachers in the school. I had ruined her financially because no school district in the area would hire this walking piece of garbage. Yeah, I don't think the teaching career is for her, basically. I mean, she could go find another job, just not teach, because I don't want her to be belittling other students and make them feel bad for asking a question. Why would you make a student feel bad for asking a question when they genuinely want to learn? Seriously. I guess teaching's just not for her then. Finally, someone stuck up for themselves. I don't even know how many students felt put down by this teacher, but I'm glad that no one else in that school has to feel this way anymore. Story number 2. Guy and Sarah have been like family to my wife and I for several years, practically ever since we moved in across the street from them. The 4 of us were extremely tight. Our kids are the same age as theirs and are all good friends. We were one big family unit. We had dinner together a few times a week. We went on vacations together. I truly saw Guy as a brother, and my wife and Sarah were very close too. 5 months ago, I was completely blindsided by the discovery of an affair between my wife and Guy. My wife had left her email open on our computer, and I saw an email from her to her longtime therapist saying that Guy will be joining her at an incoming session. Again. What? My mind started racing. Why in the world would Guy be going to her therapy sessions without my knowledge? I did a search and found some other emails to and from the therapist proving that Guy had been going to sessions together with her for about 6 weeks. I checked our mobile phone account and discovered that since late summer they had been exchanging hundreds of texts every day, peaking at nearly 500 a day by the holidays. Speaking of the holidays, my wife and I hosted both our families, parents and siblings, etc. for both Thanksgiving and Christmas dinner, and Guy and Sarah joined us either for dinner or after dinner on both holidays. Text records show that the entire time they were at our house celebrating with our families, my wife and Guy were texting each other across the room. They were doing that pretty much every time the 4 of us hung out for months. And all day, every day, just in general. But what bothers me the most is that they were doing it with Sarah and I right there. Oh my gosh. Oh no, I feel bad for Sarah. Does she know? I confronted my wife with the evidence and she admitted that yes, she and Guy had fallen in love. It just happened. I don't know how, but I love him and I just don't feel anything for you anymore. I'm sorry. They had gone on a school district trip together. Something had happened in her hotel room and things had moved quickly from there. She explained as I lay face down on the couch, unable to look at her, that they had already made plans to move out and divorce me and Sarah, and while they didn't plan to move in together immediately because of the kids, they'd probably do so eventually. They already went that far? The meetings with the therapist were supposedly mostly for the purpose of finding a way to break this to me and Sarah as gently as possible, because they were very concerned for our well-being. Sarah and I are fairly certain that they weren't planning on telling us about the affair at all, and were simply going to discover their feelings for one another several months down the line, after they come up with some other reason to divorce the 2 of us. Okay, so Sarah knows. My wife moved out 2 months ago. I was and still am utterly destroyed. I cry every day. I cried writing the first 3 paragraphs of this story just now. I worry non-stop about the impact on our kids, but I am also not exactly a shrinking violet when I feel that I've been wronged. And in this case, I was objectively very, very wronged. So, a couple of years ago, Guy ran for a Board of Education seat as a pretty extreme underdog. I helped him with his campaign materials and debate prep, and my wife, a well-known school district employee, this becomes important later, got the word out as best as she could. Much to our surprise, he actually won in a squeaker by just a few dozen votes. Being on the board became the center of Guy's world. He joined every committee that he could. This turned into the foundation of his affair with my wife, as they were constantly going to school events and meetings together on evenings and weekends. Once I discovered the affair, my thoughts turned pretty quickly to revenge, and it occurred to me that an affair between a member of the Board of Education and an employee of the school district was at least bad politics and possibly violated district policy. Making things far worse for them was that my wife was in the running for an open administrative position, and everyone knew that she was more or less guaranteed the job and the major pay rise that came with it. She had just finished her master's degree in school administration at the urging of her principal and the superintendent so that she could be promoted to this specific position. Oh, Whoa. Wow, he's gonna ruin their careers. I had plenty of evidence of the affair. Texts from both of them admitting to it. Text records showing that they were texting hundreds of times a day. Emails to and from the therapist. I considered simply emailing all of the evidence to the board and the superintendent, but I felt like as the grieving betrayed spouse might not be seen as a credible source. So instead, I invented a furious friend who was planning on showing up to the next board meeting and publicly shaming the two of them for the affair. I told my wife that I tried to talk this person down but couldn't guarantee that they wouldn't show up and humiliate them publicly. As I expected, this led to Guy to conclude that the only option was for him to admit the affair to the board. The superintendent subsequently recommended that Guy resign, which he did. Sarah said that he was utterly humiliated and crushed and barely got out of bed for a few days afterwards. Once word of the affair and Guy's resignation started getting around, the superintendent, a longtime friend of both my wife and Guy, contacted my wife and tearfully informed her that it was no longer politically appropriate for her to be promoted to an administrative position within the district. The position that had been lined up for her was later filled by an outside candidate. This sent waves of confusion and rumor throughout the district. It was pretty well known that my wife was getting the job. The day after she was informed that she wasn't getting the promotion, my wife and I, despite our crumbling marriage, took our son out to breakfast together on his birthday, and her parents stopped by our table to congratulate her on her new role. She said thanks, then excused to go cry in the bathroom for a while. I let the dust settle for a couple of weeks, and then right before my wife moved out, let them in on my little secret. There was never a furious friend, threatening to expose them in the first place. Just me. Oh my God. This is like next level revenge because like they didn't even do anything. They let Guy and his wife do everything themselves, you know, and everything just played into place. And then now he's gonna be like, you guys played yourself. There was never anyone trying to out you guys. You guys did it yourself. My wife and Guy claim that they plan on trying to make things work together, despite all the public humiliation. I wish them lots of luck with that. I'm sure it will be a lot of fun to show their faces together in town. Holy, this is like next level revenge. Jeez, like, they didn't even need to do the work, you know? The people who they were trying to get the revenge on did all the work themselves. And then in the end, he just took credit for it, you know? He was like, yes, that was me. The fact that you resigned yourself, I did it. That's crazy. I feel bad for Sarah, honestly. What happened to Sarah, though? Did Sarah do anything? Is she okay? I hope she's okay. Well, that's it for the video. Hope you guys enjoyed. Tell me in the comments down below what your thoughts are. And as always, thanks for watching. Hope you guys liked it. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye!